Hello, amateurs, and welcome to the Rugby World Cup series. And I've got Elko with me again to discuss everything that happened on the first weekend of action. Elko, how are you?
Bonjour, all good. What a great start.
It really was. Now, obviously, I've been out here at the Rugby World Cup, and what I didn't realise was that actually, if you're at the World Cup, you don't really watch that much rugby. There's been a lot of drinking and catching up with friends and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to rely on you, Elko, for all the analysis during this week's show. So we'll start off with what was your favourite scrum of the weekend?
Oh, my favourite scrum of the weekend. I guess it's got to be Scotland's one just before halftime when they poked the bear. Probably the worst thing they possibly could have done. Celebrated it like it was the best thing ever, and apparently the South Africans tore up the changing room at halftime. They were not happy with that at all.
Yeah, I haven't seen a South African scrum, or especially that South African scrum, destroyed like that, and it was a proper destruction, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was amazing. I don't know whether something went wrong on a call or there was a little bit of angle going on, but it was impressive. But they didn't do it again.
Okay, what about the rest of that game? What else did we learn from South Africa versus Scotland at the weekend?
Uh, well, I mean, South Africa looked bloody good. I was surprised that Scotland didn't try and do something slightly different. They put a lot of pressure on Finn Russell and the rush defence. He just couldn't quite work it out and just kept going, trying to do some intricate stuff in between the press. A couple of little chip kicks through, maybe, I don't know. Could have maybe helped. They had one opportunity, and the pass didn't go to Van Murder, which I think he may have scored, and that might have put a little bit of pressure on the box. But they were mighty impressive. And looking at some of the analysis, even when there was a line break, which there might have been one or two, the work rate of their back row and outside backs to then get into position and scramble is very good. They're going to win.
Yeah, I mean, I think we discussed last week if Scotland were going to have any chance in this game, then they had to take their chances. And that was essentially what looked like a 3-on-1. It wouldn't have quite worked out that way with the scrambling defence, but Van der Merwe was definitely favourite to score, I think, if the ball had got into his hands. And something you picked up there as well, which was the South Africa pressing really hard in defence, standard, but if you're going to do that, you will concede the odd line break, and your scramble defence has got to be excellent off the back of it. What about Scotland? Where do they
Yeah.
go from here, do you think?
Um, I, I don't think they played badly. I just think they just couldn't do what they wanted to do, and South Africa manipulated them both in attack and defence. They've got to sort their line out. That was very disappointing. It looked like they concentrated on their scrum, and maybe not spend as much time on line out because I mean there was overthrows. Bearing in mind that Scotland do a lot of their strike plays from line out, you would have thought that would be absolutely spot on, but pressure gets to people. It looked like the sub that came on Hooker, it looked like he didn't know the calls, or maybe they couldn't hear or something going on, but there was a few overthrows, which was disappointing. Just going back to South Africa, just to point out, if people get to watch it again, just watching Faf de Klerk and he's obviously got a free reign in defence where he can just fly. And from an Irish point of view, I think that's really interesting about how maybe we can look to sucker him in and have Johnny Sexton or another put someone through with him going to it. It's a great weapon, but I think if he gets it wrong and he can get outside of him, then there's loads of opportunity. Scotland just couldn't quite do it on the night. But I think they've got the big game out of the way, and now they're just going to be eyes on Ireland, aren't they? So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's move on to another game. Which was your team of the weekend, Elko, and why?
Easy peasy, and they lost. Chile. I I thought they were absolutely awesome. Honestly, they were just like, you know, I guess I was thinking, oh, they're, a poorer nation, a third tier. they're going to be rubbish. And their core skills were just right up there. It was a cracking game against Japan. For a while, I thought maybe they were gonna win. I think fitness maybe just they didn't have the legs. Their fullback was, I'd say he's got to be sort of some French Prem or English Prem teams knocking on the door. He had a cracking game. So they are definitely my team of the week. I thought they should be immensely proud, and what a cracking game as well.
Yeah, this was actually one of the games that I did see a fair bit of, and they just looked magnificent, didn't they? Like with their running lines and their just sort of flowing hair,
Yeah.
they looked amazing. And a kit that we're not used to seeing in World Rugby. Like I was generally enthralled with them as well. So I'm really looking forward now to watching them play against England and the rest of their games too.
Yeah. I think Fiji sort of are everyone else's sort of other team. I think people were saying, but I think Chile might steal some hearts along the way.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, moving on. What would be your match of the weekend?
Well, it's between England and the Fiji Wales game. For different reasons. I think, okay, if we look at a game of rugby with with everything and speed and just awesome tries, then it's got to be the sort of the Fiji game against Wales. I loved it, but in terms of a kind of, and I know you were there, and I can't wait to hear about it. But in terms of sort of the atmosphere and a guy taking a game by the scruff of the neck and being technically amazing, George Ford, England's win was just, I loved it.
Yeah, so this goes back now to being at the World Cup and not seeing much rugby. I actually pretty much missed the entire of Fiji Wales. There was just, a lot going on. So I can't really comment on that, but it does seem to be a very popular game amongst, everybody, to be honest. Now, so I was at England-Argentina, and I would say the mood beforehand was extreme nervousness from England fans. Like everybody that I spoke to thought Argentina were favourites, and rightly so. The Argentina fans were incredible. Just so much singing and dancing, and just I think as England fans, we were all quite jealous of how much fun they were having at the rugby. It's something we really aspire to. I think most people want to be able to do that. And you see it at Lions tours, and you'll sometimes see it at World Cups, I guess, but we'd sort of built into it. So then onto the game itself. Obviously, the Curry incident very early on, and suddenly, all nervousness is almost gone. It's almost like, well, we're resigned to defeat now. But George Ford just started dropping goals, and massive mammoth drop goals as well from the end of the earth, it seemed. And it was like a slow tide just coming in to a car that was parked on the beach. And it just took it and took it and took it. And Argentina never really got started until the game was well gone. And by the end, Swing Low was belted out in the stadium, the magnificent stadium in Marseille, by the way. And it was a whole lot of fun.
And did it feel like could you guys as England supporters feel that this was, the longer it went on, you've got these guys, and then the opposite, could you tell the RGs were kind of going, oh, this isn't going well?
Yeah, 100%. And it was entirely scoreboard pressure. So England have had a very restricted game plan for God knows how long already, but they almost tightened it up even more, and just concentrated on field position basically. So they were in range to score points if and when they were available. And it was like a boa constrictor, just slowly squeezing and squeezing and squeezing. England did get a couple of chances to run the ball though, which they squandered with horrific sideways running from the backs. Which
I saw your clip on YouTube, and everyone have a look at it. It's brilliant from inside the ground. But I heard Goldie saying about running sideways and being taught at school. However, apparently, if you were looking at Fiji and you had a good sort of look from behind, they run across the pitch all of the time. but just are way more effective.
Okay, so you've got to be really good to do that then. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly.
okay, cool. So let's just what we'll do is we'll just go through sort of the rest of the games now with just a sort of little recap. So we'll start with the opening game, New Zealand versus France. What were your sort of big takeaways from that game?
Yeah, just watching it again this morning. To As we expected, very nervy. Particularly France at the start. But they sure they New Zealand sort of some Joe Schmidt moves, I think, sort of kicking and pressurizing, and did well. I thought New Zealand's discipline was poor, particularly their right winger Jordan gave away way too many silly penalties in the air. Although there seems to be a bit of a discrepancy around how the Southern Hemisphere view this battle in the air and how Northern Hemisphere. And I know there was a lot of chat about how I suppose we call them when you escort the attacking players or the team that's just kicked and try and help your fullback or whoever's catching the ball. They seem to have a much more rigorous sort of viewpoint on that. That if anybody gets in the way or touches the person who's chasing the ball, then it seems to be carte blanche because they're obstructed. But I think the onus is still on sort of letting the person land, or at least if you be up there at the same height, sort of thing. New Zealand will be very disappointed, I think, in some of their discipline. But France at home are a mean prospect. I think both of them will still go through fairly healthily. And I think looking at it from a point of view of South Africa and Ireland, who probably are the only ones who can still win the group. That's not to say Scotland won't get out. I think you need to win the group. I don't fancy France at the moment. Maybe later on, whereas I would fancy New Zealand at this point. But it's going to be tough either way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think New Zealand have got a lot more growth in them this tournament, whereas I think France are nicely humming away, and there's probably more growth in them as well, but they're already at a very high level. Okay, let's move on. Next game, Italy, Namibia. What did you think about that one?
I saw it. I was by a pool drinking beer. I can't remember much of it. I know Italy dominated. Good to see the winger. What's his name? Is it a Dojo? Who was in the reckoning for England? He came a Dogwoo. He came on the second half and looked fairly handy. I like him. He's got an interesting stature. He's very compact. I like the way I don't know how quick he is, but he looks really quick. The way he shuffles along reminds me of a John Lomu game character. Yeah, they look good. I think they'll give France a bit of a go when that's up. But yeah, it was an okay game. Nothing to I can hardly remember, if I'm honest.
Yeah, okay. Let's go on to Australia, Georgia then next. Did you see any of that? I personally didn't.
I saw bits again. Australia looked pretty decent. It could have been a banana skin for Jones and his guys, but they came out of it pretty unscathed. I did see a bit of the press conference after. I don't know if you saw, but the Eddie Jones called out the guy from the Telegraph, basically saying, "Where is he? Why is he not here?" Because he's been pretty scathing, and sort of said, "Oh, will he be? If we'd have lost, he'd be here." So interesting. But I believe he was in the room next door because the Fiji game was on. But yeah, they're bubbling away. Australia, they've got through their first banana skin.
Cool. And the last game to talk about is Ireland, Romania, with Romania getting off to a cracking start, scoring the opening try, but then obviously Ireland came back and dominated really.
Yeah, the main thing with that was Sexton getting through. I've got to say, he looks fresh. He looks doesn't look 39. He looked really good. Came through unscathed. Big performance from McCarthy in the second row. And the last try Ireland scored was was I was thinking kick the ball off, and they just kept going. Unbelievable try by Byrne at the end, after a nice bit of play from Crowley, to a little jink over the top, for which will be interesting, because I think we're going to need to do stuff like that. Not as loose, but little chip kicks through against South Africa. But Bundyaki then went on. I have to say, Bundyaki was exceptional. I love his attitude at the moment. He's not celebrating anything. He's being very controlled. He looks really good, and is the shoe-in centre for me, as opposed to Ringrose or any of the other guys that are there, but Henshaw. But yeah, it was a good game. I'm not going to blow much air into Ireland, because I don't know if you've seen the advert that Guinness have done with O'Driscoll and Keith Wood, but very much the kind of crack at home is, don't jinx it. So we didn't speak about Ireland at the last podcast we did, and I don't really want to speak about them too much now either. I don't think we're going to win.
Okay, I just want
we're not going to win.
That last try was ridiculous, really, for a couple of reasons. You said, why not just kick the ball out when you're a ton of points up, job's done, basically. But then also the fitness of Ty Byrne to get on the shoulder and sprint that one home from a big forward in hot conditions was just remarkable.
Yeah, I loved that. I was laughing because and I know he was absolutely wrecked, but he also knew that the cameras are on him. So he probably wanted to get sick, but kind of giving it the big and get up and walk back. Yeah, it was awesome. It was, and I believe Farrell was on the sideline. I think at beginning was kind of saying kick it out, and then was like, go on, go for it, sort of thing. So they've enough time to recover. Hopefully, hasn't taken too much out of the legs that game. But yeah, tidy, nowhere near fifth gear, but that's, we can afford not to be different this weekend.
Yeah. Okay. People at home, let's hear you. What do you think? What did we miss? What were some of your big takeaways from this first weekend of the Rugby World Cup? If you can give this video a little thumbs up while you're there and hit subscribe, that'll be amazing, because I am out here in France for the entire World Cup, and I'm doing daily vlogs, which Elko really enjoyed yesterday's one. So if you see me, come up and say hi, and and maybe you can get in one of the vlogs as well. So thank you very much, Elko, and everybody at home, get out and play.